The View, working hard to now backtrack on a lot of the lefty enthusiasm for the CEO Slayer. This is an interesting thread from Nicholas Fondacaro, and he went through, watched The View so that we don't have to, and you'll see there's a bunch of clips here in this thread from Whoopi. She said something about the CEO Slayer. Then we've got Behar, who comes in and says something about it. Then this woman comes in and says something about it. And one of these things is not like the others, because when we come all the way down to Sunny Hostin, the crowd goes quiet. And you can see things get a little bit strange and a little bit awkward because her take is off the rails relative to the other folks. Now, there's been a phenomenon that has happened where a bunch of people, mostly as we've observed on the left, people like Elizabeth Warren, AOC, Sunny, and others, sort of making excuses for this guy. Taylor Lorenz came out and said she experienced a sense of joy, or whatever that was, because a man was shot in the back and eliminated. Now, we're no fans of the health industry or the healthcare companies or anybody who is colluding with the government to do what they did to us back during the pandemic, but we're also people who believe in the presumption of innocence and due process, and we want to live in a society where none of that is happening. But The View has happened to been, I think what this is, clean up the narrative for their own people, because Jimmy Kimmel and others have been gleeful over this. In fact, they're even raising money for this guy. Donations are pouring in. We'll come back on this, but here are a couple clips from this. Here's what Whoopi said. She said, look, Americans don't want people shot in the back.
Now, the vast majority of Americans want the healthcare industry fixed. But I got to tell you, murdering someone is not the way to do it.
Yeah, Taylor.
So what is this?
Yeah, Taylor Lorenz.
I guess people are thinking of it as a lack of empathy over this murder. What does it say about where people's heads are at?
I don't know if it's a lack of empathy or people are outraged by the healthcare system in this country. It doesn't justify killing anybody, to me anyway. I think it's a very stupid idea, bad idea. When you read the...
Doesn't it feel like they're, hey, guys, cut it out. No, it's bad. Like, it's definitely bad. You think it's bad. You think it's bad, right? Oh, we're bad, don't you?
Murder's bad. Murder's bad.
Yeah, murder's bad.
Good, murder bad.
Yeah,
okay, let's get that straight.
Okay, just so all the lefty ladies watching The View in the middle of the day or whatever, they watch whatever. Can't believe anybody watches it, but the fact they're watching it, they're like, hey, just so you know, don't murder anyone.
And it doesn't seem like a lot of people go bankrupt. 500,000 people go bankrupt in this country every year because of healthcare issues. It doesn't seem like an American idea that only rich people can afford to be sick. And yet it is an American idea.
Okay, so now we're going a little down the line. So now what? So does that mean we should shoot people or something? All right, now here's another one from Sarah Haynes.
Feel a little bit of glee, or that you're out of touch, or you don't understand. And I'm sorry, but at the lowest low, this is not the way I was raised. My heart is not allow for this. Check in with your minister, check in with your parents, check in with someone, because if you in any way feel this was the answer, you need to look at yourself.
Yeah.
And this guy had every privilege in the world. I've said this before. His grandfather was frustrated with things. He didn't like government bureaucracy. He was a bricklayer, an immigrant, and had 10 kids. And guess what he did? He created nursing homes. He didn't like the country club in their area as he had money and wealth because they didn't treat him right. So he opened his own country club. This guy is riding on the back of that family and all they built. He could have gone in to a system and done something, and he's trying to be a revolutionary. This is a civilized country.
Good point, man. He went to he went to like Ivy League school. He could have used his engineering and his valedictorian and all his smarts and wit and all the stuff to go start a competing healthcare company or come up with a technological solution, or rather than 3D printing a ghost gun, whatever that is, then he can go and do something useful with that. But instead, he has been radicalized into going and eliminating somebody on the streets.
We don't do this. And by the way, this does not change things for everyone that's sitting there. They're going to put one more pawn in there. If you want to change it, and I understand the outrage. There are people sitting in emergency rooms with 1-year-olds, people that can't get beds for kids with disabilities. The list goes on and on. I am not out of touch with the reasons. This is never the answer. Who's next? What elite is next?
Yeah, and we made that point. Taylor Lorenz was getting all gleeful and giddy over this, but a lot of people are very upset with the media, okay? As much as people are upset with CEO healthcare professionals, people are upset with a lot of different industries. And so you now say, look, if the Taylor Lorenz standard is accepted, where there's joy in murder, where does that stop? What's the limiting principle on all this? And so Sunny is going to come up, and she's going to be the one that's a little bit different here. And so here is what she said. Okay, so everybody comes out, don't murder anyone. Then it's Sunny, and the crowd gets a little quiet.
Now, and let Sunny get in here.
I agree with mostly everything that's been said. We know that only about 31% of Americans trust our healthcare system. We have a terrible healthcare system, and doctors suffer because of big corporations as well. Doctors that want to do good, like my husband, operates on someone even though they don't have insurance, and then has to sue health insurance companies to get paid for the work that he's been trained his whole life to do. So there are a lot of problems with it. But the notion that we are in a violent country, this country was built on violence. We're a very violent country, and it's just undeniable that's the case. And so I'm not, unfortunately, surprised that people are celebrating the use of violence. I'm not surprised that this young man thought that change could be accomplished through violence. 1 in 4 Americans say violence against government sometimes is justified. And today, in 2024, 1 in 10 Americans say violence is justified right now against corporations and government.
That's very
I think she's making the case that maybe she's justified for that. That, hey, I'm not alone in this, okay? My husband is having to do surgery on uninsured people, probably illegal aliens, who are coming in here, and then I got to go sue somebody to get paid for it. So she's mad at the health insurance companies for not paying for uninsured people who are coming in, likely illegally, because I thought Obamacare solved all the healthcare problems, by the way. So we were not going to have any uninsured people. Remember, the millions of uninsured, they're uninsured. Okay, so who's uninsured? I thought everybody was mandated to get healthcare. So how's that working? She then turns around and says that it is about violent Americans. And can we just be clear on what my interpretation of that is when our government becomes dictatorial or totalitarian, it is an American tradition to throw off the bonds of tyranny, right? We had an entire revolution here that is part of the American spirit. And so as a check on the government, we, the people, say that if our government does become tyrannical, we as the people and the states can be a check on them. And this country has gone through periods of violence, right? But to say that it is a violent country because people are recognizing that distinction, I think is a nuance that she's not clarifying, okay? Most people are not just, let's get violent. No, we like our liberty. We like our God-given rights. We like our free speech. We like our due process. We don't like to be prosecuted unlawfully by partisan hacks. We don't like scientific dictators like Fauci and the rest of them mandating to us we do certain things. And so we keep the propensity to reject that tyranny in our back pocket, and we recognize that that is a possibility, but we plead with our government to not do that. And I think that's what she's referencing. So it's not like we're identifying with somebody just going and shooting somebody in the back if there's any conversation about violence, or let's say use of force, right, against your government. We have the First Amendment and the Second Amendment. We use our speech and we try to be peaceful and use our words. But if somebody's going to come and try to take that from us, then we have the Second Amendment too, because that is our natural God-given right. Now, to just suddenly equate that to like violence is obviously nuts. It's not the same thing. We're not for shooting people in the back. So don't quote your statistics and then say that there's some sort of justification for it.
Those are just,
and even though I don't think he might change something, he might have laid out a plan for a copycat. That's what I see.
Yeah.
All right. So a bunch happening on The View. Here is one more from Melissa, who used to claim she worked for Trump, worked there for a very short time, and is now on The View writing it out.
It's a microcosm of what's wrong with a lot of our society. And I think a lot of it's driven by the internet and the digital space, which is, this is a person, he's good looking. Oh no, we're so surprised good looking people commit crimes. He's coming out.
Ted Bundy.
Yeah, exactly. He's coming out in favor of a cause that I think people generally agree the American healthcare system is not great. He's not offering a solution. He had a 2-page manifesto. There wasn't a single line, as I read it, that explained, okay, so what would you like to do? What would be better than the system that we live in? And then then there's this desire to cheerlead and create fan lore around this person rather than address, okay, the one takeaway we should have, the two, this is wrong. And now there are going to be kids who don't have a father on Christmas Day because the CEO was killed. But secondarily, that we all agree there may be a collective problem, but what are we doing to try to fix it? And I'm so frustrated that the discourse seems to be more around like celebrating him and excitement or like anger over the system, but not talking about solutions. And even, and this is not, I want to be careful on how I say this, Bernie Sanders and Senator Warren put out statements decrying the ills of the healthcare system.
Yeah.
But they're part of the system. I think that we need to hold those who are in places of power who can make changes more accountable than to actually do something.
Why go after two liberals?
Because they're the ones responsible for it.
Hold on,
let Sunny.
Because they're the ones who created the current system, Joy. It's Obama. Hello. That was supposed to be the end-all solution. Remember John McCain threw his back out trying to keep that thing there in place? So they're working very hard to try to explain to their audience, please stop supporting this murderer. You're making us look like psychopathic lunatics, even more than we already make ourselves look like psychopathic lunatics. But they're now making donations to Luigi. Lots of money coming to him. In the days since Luigi was charged with murder for gunning down the CEO, more than 1,000 donations have poured in. In New York, wanted posters have also shown up, according to Reuters, with faces of CEOs all over the place. Hats called CEO Hunter printed. These people are sick. It's like a death cult. Mangione has been charged with murder, and there's a newfound hero. The crime he's accused of has been broadly condemned, but he does have an unsettling mixture of an online crush in certain Taylor Lorenz circles. Most of the messages on crowdsourced sites like Give, Send, Go are very frustrated over the healthcare system. Denying healthcare coverage to people's murder, so we can just shoot you back. Some people calling it justifiable homicide. More than 31,000 has been raised as of Wednesday on Give, Send, Go alone. We heard his attorney saying that money was being offered to him, not that he would accept it. Health insurers often manage health benefits, but no one even knows if this, I think this guy's was even a healthcare customer of United. Several sites are selling free t-shirts, free Luigi. In this house, Luigi Mangione is a hero, end of story. Don't deny my coverage. Some people saying this man is an absolute legend. Class consciousness is rising. But yeah, it is disturbing, but that's who they are. They just set up abortion vans outside their DNC events and celebrate shooting people in the back, because apparently to them, that's the honorable way to address the system. Walk up behind somebody, 6 a.m, shoot them in the back and ride off, and then be caught with all the evidence. Strange case. Ladies on The View trying their best to convince their audience to come around to the sane perspective that murder's not good. Sonny Hostin, though, still on the fence. All right.